There's got to be Moderna. No, it's Pfizer. This is a... If I could just pounce quick enough. Oh, right through me fingers. Are you tired of feeling like the vaccine hunter, navigating the interswamp of appointment websites? Well, we're here to help with some hacks. That said, lots of people have already gotten their shots, millions in Oregon and Washington. So why are COVID cases going back up again?
There's really kind of a little bit of everything. People, I think, see people getting vaccinated and are taking that kind of as an all clear.
And we know all of you love when we talk trash. And apparently, there's a huge mountain of it in a Portland neighborhood that the city says they can't really do anything about.
It's getting more and more, but it's been here for a year.
Here's the story.
Crikey! Thanks for being with us. I'm Dan Haggerty. This is The Story. We want to hear from you tonight. As you'll see, if you are kind of new to the show and you're watching, pay attention how often we are using questions that we get from the viewers at home. It's every single night. We try to fit it into every single story. So help tell us what you want to see us cover and how you want to see it covered. Use the contact information you got at the bottom of your screen. Now, we hear from frustrated Portland people every single week, every single night really, about trash. Pretty much every neighborhood or highway, and you see it everywhere. Now, if you follow us on social media, you know that Maggie Vespa is looking into several different programs that the city and the county and the metro area, they're exploring right now to try and figure out how to take care of all this trash and get it cleaned up. We're going to have some more on that for you tomorrow. But tonight, let's look into one specific pile of trash that just won't quit in Northeast Portland, even after a rat infestation, even after it caught fire. Here's Christelle Kumwe.
Well, there are baby items, there's a car door, nightstands, there's just piles and piles of stuff.
Random items
Couldn't imagine what's all underneath the top pile of it.
started piling up months ago at the corner of Burnside and Northeast 160th Avenue, according to Mary Skews, who lives in an apartment complex nearby.
It's getting more and more, but it's been here for a year.
The pile, which stretches about half a block, has been around so long it has caused a rat infestation.
I've had a rat in a trap. I've had one run by me on my patio.
And the problems don't stop there. The trash pile at one point caught fire. Hazmat crews removed some used syringes, but the rest of the trash remained.
Many of us in the neighborhood have called city and ODOT and other agencies to try to get help to get the pile removed.
I reached out to the city for an interview. Instead, they sent a statement which says they've sent work crews 4 times in the past month to clean up and pick up garbage at the site. But since it is considered a low health and safety risk, the site doesn't meet their criteria for removal. Now, the statement goes on to say that compared to other sites around town, this is considered a small site, and so they have no plans on removing it.
The city added they can't collect the items because the person living in the tent among the trash says what's here is his property. Neighbors argue it's not actually his things.
That is garbage he goes around the neighborhood and collects out of everyone's yards. He lives in this tent right here. And that's his, I guess now the city says it's his home.
For others looking for a home in the area,
Oh, it's super frustrating.
Kelly, who did not want her last name used or be on camera, is the manager at one of the complexes in the neighborhood.
It becomes a problem with my tenants that are already living here, but also that are applying here. You know, nobody wants to live with that.
The city's homelessness and urban camping impact reduction program coordinates cleanups. They tell me they prioritize cleanup efforts for campsites that don't follow COVID safety guidelines or have needles near schools or playgrounds. This site may be small according to city standards, but neighbors consider it a big and growing problem. They would clean it up themselves, but fear the campers' reaction. Desperate for a solution, they're eager to assist the city in getting rid of the pile of trash.
And I'm willing to volunteer to help. They want to come clean this out, I will be out here with them.
Christelle Kumwe, KGW News.
So, Even after a year, the garbage stays. Essentially, because according to the city, it's not garbage. It belongs to the man who lives there in a tent. A man who I assume has also probably lived there for about a year. Should that be legal? And not necessarily the trash part. I'd like to hear your opinions on that. But the man living there on the street for a year, should that be legal? Places like Portland and Salem have tried to make it illegal in the past and failed. They tried to pass those so-called sit-lie ordinances that make it illegal for homeless people to sit or lie on city sidewalks. You may be sitting at home right now and saying, well, yes, that's how it should be. I get emails like that every single night. People think that's how we solve this problem. But what if those people have nowhere to go at all? No shelters, no temporary housing, nowhere. Should that be illegal? To be homeless and without options, should that be a crime? The Oregon House says no. Today they passed a bill that would prevent cities from ticketing or arresting people for sleeping or resting in public places if there's nowhere else for them to go. It came out of a situation in Boise recently where homeless people were ticketed for sleeping outside, even though at the time Boise had a shortage of shelter beds. A Ninth Circuit judge ruled on this and called it cruel and unusual punishment. House Bill 3115 would force cities in Oregon to comply with that decision.
If you can't justify moving folks along because there's not enough shelter, then you have to have a different standard of how you treat them. And from my perception, that is more humanely.
One of our viewers, Gordon, has a question kind of about this, what it would actually mean in the long run. He wrote this: hey Dan, HB 3115, which creates the right to sleep on public property, is scheduled for a vote. I'm at a loss as to how this concept really addresses the long-term needs of the unsheltered citizens or the general community. What do your viewers think? Well, first, I am interested to hear what people at home think, so please weigh in, let me know, use the hashtag HeyDan. But to me, this policy kind of puts pressure on society to create more options for people that don't have any. If you want to punish people for being outside, first you have to create the shelter beds, and that kind of puts the pressure on society to make those shelter beds if that's what you want. And I say pressure alone because the bill doesn't actually provide any funding for shelters or any other services, really. I know right now you should understand we don't have enough of either of those things. And you might be thinking, but Portland, Multnomah County, we have more services than most cities in the country, if not the most in some areas. You're still telling me that that is not enough? Well, yeah, it's not. We talked to Dennis Thorold. He's the Multnomah County, he's with Multnomah County's Joint Office of Homeless Services. He said that in the past 5 years, we've passed things, we're spending money. Multnomah County has added more shelter beds, but the need has continued to outpace that work.
Even though we've added shelter, folks are still being pushed out of their housing faster than we can get them back into housing. And I think that's the other, if you think about why we would need more shelter, why we need more housing placement, it's because our market is still kicking people out of their houses because they can't afford the rent. And we're still going to be in this situation for a while. And
now, there's also another bill in session right now, House Bill 2367, or the Right to Rest Act, that seeks to decriminalize homelessness. The bill says governments should stop putting homeless people through the criminal justice system and instead redirect that time and redirect that money to address the root causes of homelessness, the reasons that people are on the street and can't get off the street. Now, that doesn't mean that homeless people would be above the law if they committed a crime. It's still a crime, right? But the act of being homeless, in the opinion of this bill, could not and should not be penalized.
Local government, we're not designed to solve national level housing problems, and we've had to pick up the slack quite a bit and do a lot more, but, and we're committed to that. But boy, if we really had that federal help, that's where the systemic issues could get addressed. But someone's status, someone's living situation, that's not criminal. And that's not something that, punishing them for will help them leave or escape. Someone needs support. They need rent assistance. They need help with any behavioral health issues they might have. They're going to need help getting to doctor's appointments. They're going to need help with transportation costs. And then sometimes they can be on their own, and that works out. And for many people, that's the case.
Now, House Bill 3115, the one that passed today, it now has to go to the Oregon Senate. The other bill, House Bill 2367, had a public hearing this week, but it hasn't been voted on yet. We'll let you know what happens as long as you let me know what you think. Use that hashtag, HeyDan. All right, let's get to our big story tonight. So starting today, everyone 16 and older is eligible for the COVID vaccine in Washington, and on Monday, everyone 16 and older in Oregon will be eligible. But why does it kind of still feel like finding a shot is like securing a ticket to some overpriced concert on Ticketmaster? I mean, you have to log on at certain times. You have to refresh the page like a million times. You got to use your phone and your computer. And that's just to have a shot. We get emails like this one every day. I enjoy playing hide and seek with my kids, but I'm not so interested in playing Where is the Vaccine with the state of Oregon. I've been eligible to get the vaccine for weeks. I've registered with the OHA for the convention center, and it says they will contact me when there is an available appointment. Has anyone ever been contacted this way? Can the OHA just assign me a position in line even if they cannot yet guarantee a specific time and date? So look, the first part of your question, the answer is yes, thousands of people have been contacted after signing up the way that you did. But for a lot of you, you don't want to wait. And if you don't want to wait, our Kristen Severance explains all the different ways that you can proactively get your best shot at getting vaccinated.
What is your job? I mean, what is your 9 to 5?
My 9 to 5, I'm an IT project manager for one of the large health systems in the Portland area.
Jeff McNamee has used that experience to help nearly 9,000 people find an appointment for the COVID vaccine through the Facebook group Find a COVID Shot Oregon.
You can tell a project that lacks a manager. It's kind of like the plumber shows up, the carpenter shows up, the electrician shows up to the house, but none of it's scheduled, none of it's coordinated. The work might eventually get done, but it's done almost by accident than it is on purpose.
Which some could argue describes the current system of finding a shot in Oregon and Washington. More than a dozen different systems to secure the vaccine and appointments released at all different times. Jeff lists all the ways to find an appointment in an extensive Google Doc posted in the Facebook group.
And when you collect information and put it into a simple document, a lot of times that reduces the anxiety and the mental load on somebody that's looking for an option.
We thought we did a good job. Then we saw your Google Doc and we're like, oh, we need to step it up.
Well, share it far and wide, please. I want everybody to use that. The more people that get their arms jabbed, the better.
With millions of people now eligible for the COVID vaccine in Oregon and Washington.
So tell me,
I asked Jeff for his top tips to find an appointment. He said the easiest way, if you don't mind waiting to be contacted, sign up at Get Vaccinated Oregon.
Because that's 5 minutes of your time, and then your name just goes into a database and somebody picks your name out and sends you an invitation.
There is a Vaccinate Washington appointment finder, which is listed in the Google Doc, but his favorite site, no matter where you live, findashot.org.
You type in your zip code, and every 4 minutes, it just refreshes. So if you just leave it on your browser all day long, every 4 minutes, it just refreshes your page automatically, and you go on there and it tells you where there's appointments. And that's a pretty slick way to do it. So that's your ticket to like a CVS or a Walgreens or a Fred Meyer or a Rite Aid or whatever.
If you're having trouble finding an appointment inside the Portland metro area, Jeff suggests trying a neighboring county.
If you go a little bit outside, especially in Columbia County or Marion County, those are probably kind of a sweet spot for Portlanders. They seem like a long ways away, but like Scappoose is only 20 miles from Hillsborough.
You can also drive to the fairgrounds in Salem for a walk-in appointment. Some other tips from KGW's vaccine team. When going to the OHSU portal, once you've answered your eligibility questions, keep the scheduling link handy to paste in different browsers. If you become disconnected from the page, use that same link so you don't have to answer all the questions again. Create an account before you sign up for an appointment. For example, create a MyChart account before scheduling at the OHSU airport drive-thru. Keep trying. Refresh your page often. Check your county's public health page. That's where you can find information about community pop-up sites. Try pharmacies outside your county. Most importantly, know when appointments are added. We put a full list of times on KGW.com. There is also a universal vaccine standby site called Dr. B.
We've been vaccinating people in Portland for about a week now.
You sign up at hidrb.com. If a provider has extra doses or someone doesn't show up for an appointment, the provider tells Dr. B, and the site sends you a text message on where to go. KGW's vaccine team has not tested it out, but the founder says it's live in Oregon.
We have about 150 vaccine sites across the U.S. We have 7 vaccine sites, I think, in Oregon of those 150. And then there are 2 locations in Portland right now. And I think at least 2 of those locations in Oregon are super sites.
And if you're still having trouble, don't forget about that Find a COVID Shot Oregon Facebook group. Most members reported finding an appointment 1 to 3 days after joining the group.
That's really rewarding to know that really it's just a matter of getting some good information out to people, and they can really help themselves and help their friends and neighbors.
I'm Kristen Severance, KGW News.
The internet being used for good. All right, hey, let's look at the people who are having some luck getting the vaccine, because there have been a lot of them. More than 1.55 million Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose. The majority of those people have also gotten their second dose, and it works out to 37% of the state's population with that first shot. Washington is so close to the 3 million mark right now. More than 2.93 million people have gotten at least their first dose, which works out to be 38.6% of Washington's population.
It seems hard to imagine Portland without the Timbers. So let's take a trip through their history in the KGW vault.
Now we're taking a major league sport, bringing it into the United States and now Portland.
Also, have you seen this chicken? Because something tells us it's helping to keep Portland weird. When the story continues.
I knew you'd want to talk about the trash problem and the homeless issue. Tons of emails, a lot of people writing in using the hashtag #HeyDan. You know, for a lot of folks are kind of new to Twitter because of this show, which gives me so much satisfaction. It's really nice of you to engage with us like that. But one thing, if you just go into the search bar and search the hashtag #HeyDan, you can see all the other things that people are asking us or saying to us, and feel free to get into a conversation with them. This is kind of a little community here, and we want to know how everybody thinks about these different issues. So I continue to go through those as we go to commercial break. So let us know what you want to see, what you want us to cover. Use the hashtag HeyDan or reach out on email or Facebook or any of that stuff. In fact, I got this email from Ronald not long ago. He said, how come COVID cases are rising? Right? This is a great question because we've been talking about vaccines every day. We just showed you how like millions of people in Washington and Oregon are vaccinated right now. But the cases are continuing to go up. You are right, Ronald. This is a graph here showing COVID cases in Oregon since November. You see the spike there we had in the winter, of course. We talked a lot about that. And then it went down a lot as the vaccine rollout began. But now they're starting to trend back up, which seems strange for somebody like me when I think about it. So many people getting vaccinated right now, you would think cases would, I don't know, plateau or go down, but they're going back up. Now, here's what the director of the Oregon Health Authority has to say about that.
There's really kind of a little bit of everything. Lots of counties came out of higher risk levels, although some have begun moving back up again. We've got lots more kids in school. We've certainly got lots more presence of variants that are more contagious. And then I think we've also got some pandemic fatigue. Either people are just done with it, emotionally, myself included, and other people, I think, see people getting vaccinated and are taking that kind of as an all clear.
I think pandemic fatigue has taken over unprecedented as the term I'm done hearing. I have fatigue for that term. We should also mention workplace outbreaks are still happening right now. So last week the state reported outbreaks at 20 different companies all across Oregon. Now the good news is, outbreaks aren't happening as much at senior living centers, which of course they were the hardest hit places early in the pandemic, but they're still, you see on the graph there, 4 senior living center outbreaks just last week, which kind of leads me to ask some more questions about how that's happening at all. But if you're interested, let us know. I'll continue reporting on this. Now, I know a bunch of Timbers fans are out there. Tons of Timbers fans in the city. A lot of them watch this show. I mean, this is Soccer City, USA. 10 years ago, this week, they played their inaugural home game, their home opener here in Portland. But you may not know the team actually has existed for a long time, back into the 70s and 80s when soccer was a lot less popular here in the U.S. We found a story in the KGW vault that Pat Doris actually did back in 2011 during that first home game, looking at the team's history.
When fans gathered early at Geldwin Field today for the Timbers' first game, they joined the stream of history. For nearly a century, fans have gathered at this very spot to enjoy sports. Thanks to the Oregon Historical Society, we can travel back 99 years to 1912 and a gathering next to the Multnomah Athletic Club. The stadium did not exist, but the attraction of the place certainly did. 14 years later, in 1926, a stadium, Multnomah Stadium, began to rise on the very same gathering place. By 1959, the place buzzed with activity. Through the decades, it would be called Civic Stadium, PGE Park, and finally, Geldwin. But along the way, a team gathered inside for a game of soccer. The year was 1975, and the professional sport was new to America. We found one of the early promoters in our film vault.
Now we're taking a major league sport, bringing it into the United States and now Portland, and we want a price so everybody can attend. Our highest price ticket, Doug, will be not to exceed $5.
And come they did. The 1975 Timbers lost their first home game that summer, then went on a winning tear that galvanized the city. By the time they reached the playoffs, 33,000 soccer-crazed fans jammed into the stadium. The Timbers won the Western Conference their very first year. Eventually, the wins dwindled and the fans wandered. But now the great team is remembered at the Oregon Historical Society.
Just an amazing collection of stuff.
Michael Orr gathered the items for the historical display. He found many of the original Timbers still here, the connection too strong to leave.
It's rare in this country to have players, many of whom were English or from other countries. They came here in the 70s and they either stayed or they came back because there was just something about Portland that was different than the rest of the U.S. and they felt comfortable here and they made friends here. And
the Society's display includes the very first contract ever signed by a Timber player. Mick Hoban earned $900 a month back then. A season ticket was $44, and a man wearing a tree costume and called Mr. Kick-It was the mascot. It all happened 36 years ago, but many of those players are still giving back today.
They got involved in any way they could, and for many of them that was staying in the business of soccer in some way or another, and they've certainly benefited many people over the last 36 years and continue to do so today.
And now top-level soccer is back, and thousands have returned to watch. And the commissioner of the league, touring the historical exhibit today, expects the stream of history to run rich with soccer here for decades to come.
The good thing that's happening with soccer in North America is that we're sort of creating new history every day, and there are all these great moments. And I think this is an historic event for the city of Portland, certainly for soccer in the Pacific Northwest.
He called it, didn't he? He was right. Hey, keep sending us your questions and your comments. Use that hashtag HeyDan. I was just reading a few right now. We'll address those. Also, we got a weird one for you coming up. It involves a chicken, the Unipiper, and an auto body shop. Sounds like the start of a bad joke. Maybe it will end up being that. I'll explain when the story finishes next. Keeping Portland weird tonight, this lost chicken. The Unipiper, of all people, posted this sign on Twitter. It's just a white piece of paper with a phone number on it. Not the most efficient lost pet sign I've ever seen. They could have attached a picture. It would probably just look like a chicken, but you get my point. We are serious investigative journalists here, so I called the number on the sign. I got an answering machine for an auto body shop, which actually makes this a little weirder and gets me more intrigued. So if you have found a chicken recently, let me know. Use the hashtag HeyDan. I'll try to connect that chicken back with its owner, I guess. I'm not sure. We don't have a lot of time here. I want to read one question talking about the trash. Steve wrote in and said, "Hey Dan, why don't I ask Sam Adams about the trash problem? Reach out to the city." Well, my executive producer responded to this and sent it to our team here and said, "I asked for an interview today and was kindly told by the mayor's staff, hard pass." She may be editorializing there a bit, but they said no. We'll keep trying. Tomorrow, we're talking trash again with Maggie Vespa. Big piece tomorrow, so keep your questions coming. We'll try our best to keep answering them. That's the story for tonight. We'll see you back here to close out the week on a Friday.